Hello and welcome to Rates and Barrels. I'm sorry it is my voice and not the sweet dulcet tones of Derek Van Riper. I'm sure there'll be other moments when you'll notice non-smooth transitions and general blabbing of the mouth without Derek here to tell me to shut up. So I apologize ahead of time for that, but I do not apologize for our guest today. Really happy to have a longtime friend and co-manager of our Devil's Rejects team, James Anderson from RotoWire on. How are you doing, James? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, buddy. I'm still reveling in last night's Bucks win, but this is it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I enjoy watching them. Giannis with the blood streaming down his face, just taking on the whole team. I love those little finger rolls over three people. It's pretty amazing. But here on the baseball front, we're going to talk a little bit about the minor leagues. James does a great job covering prospects, among other things. It's not just prospects, but we'll talk about how I'll finish first and he'll finish second in labor this year. Maybe a little bit of that. We'll talk about some movers on his rankings that'll be coming out shortly. He does some really nice, really deep Dynasty rankings and prospect rankings that will be useful, I think, because this is an interesting thing. It's not on the rundown, but let's talk about this because we are in Devil's Rejects right now. We are I think somewhere around fifth or sixth. Depending on the day. And I think that there are other people who are in that sort of spot where it's fifth and sixth out of 20. So we're definitely, among the contenders. But I think there are a lot of people who are in this spot where it's like, when do you make the decision to go for it and acquire or to start selling off? And there is probably some advantage to make that decision quicker in terms of what you might get on the market for your players. On the other hand, you might miss out on a run. So you can talk about within the context of our team or just generally in your dynasty leagues, how much longer are you going to give it before you sell or definitively buy?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on sort of the dynasty format a little bit too. I know DVR commissions that Moxie league, or I think that's what it's called. But it's a league where you can quickly rebuild via trades. And in those types of leagues, I think there's a ton to be gained by rebuilding sooner than later.
Is that because of is it something about the format or is it the
It's because
players, the
it's
managers?
a contract league, so it's like
Mm.
you can only keep guys for so long,
Mm.
so that makes it easy to kind of rebuild over the span of like a year or two. But like in our league, Devil's Rejects, uh, rebuilding, I think in this league would take maybe 4 years. I don't.
There are guys in that league who've been rebuilding the whole time I've
Yeah,
been there.
yeah. It's just like because you keep each team keeps 28 guys
And
per
there's no
year.
limit.
Right, and it's just not a league where, like obviously the elite prospects have a ton of value, but like having the 60th best prospect, or just having a bunch of prospects from like 50 to 150 in this league just isn't that advantageous because each team's only keeping 28, and so I just think I mean, you obviously have to be realistic with yourself about just sort of how close you actually are. Like the worst place to be usually is kind of in that middle of the pack range in your league.
A little bit where
Um,
we are, it's a little bit tough. I mean, we're staring at Cody Bellinger being like, do you have another gear, please?
yeah, I think we're just trying to, like, we have too many good players who are in their primes to think about rebuilding because we just uh, like we're in striking distance, and I mean this league pays out I think what like 1 through 5, and
Yeah.
if we can catch some breaks from a health standpoint, like last year we were just we could not stay healthy at all, and
Yeah.
so I think we gotta just keep fighting, keep pushing, uh, But if we were in 12th place in this league, uh, you'd have to look at the roster a little bit, but that's not where you want to be. I think you want to be.
And if you are in that situation and you're below halfway, like now seems like an okay time to start, talks, right? Like it seems like, if you're in 12th now and you're looking at your team and you're like, oh, there's no, oh, this guy's been hurt or that guy's been out or whatever, and he's coming back. Like if there's no sort of narrative for you to follow, then I think it does make some sense. What's your favorite kind of rebuilding strategy? Is it, quality, quantity? Do you like to identify like one player? I remember at some point Ozzy Albies and Cody Bellinger were two prospects I just really wanted. I gave up a lot to get them. And it felt good at the time. It feels okay now, but I've also in that league, Tom Trudeau traded away like Paul Goldschmidt and Aaron Nola and somebody else for Ronald Acuna Jr. when he was like in high A. And I thought that was insane, but he gets the last laugh.
Yeah, I 100% quality over quantity on those types of trades where you're selling your old guys for young guys. Like you trading for prospects, like the bust. I think people always in Dynasty underrate the bust rate of prospects that are kind of in that like 15 to 50 range. Like they just think of these guys as like, oh, well, this guy's going to be good and this guy's going to be good and this guy's going to be good. Like realistically, if you have two prospects who are between like 15 and 30, one of them is going to bust at least. So really going for those high end guys in those trades. And then I think there's a lot to be said for being active on picking up these sort of under hyped guys that are possibly breaking out at the big league level on bad teams. If you stay active on waivers and you're focused more sort of on skills than role at the time, just adding those guys that can help in a rebuild too.
Yeah, so in a practical scenario, you might do that deal, where you're giving up a Goldschmidt Nola type, like you're giving up two or three players, and you might be giving up for one prospect. And I don't know how much of your top five you want to give, but I think top fives are actually it's probably the easiest part of the rankings, right? So who your top five right now?
I mean, I think like to me, if I were rebuilding, like Corbin Carroll would just be my dream target to sort of build around. Like I think he's kind of the next big thing, really. Just kind of a perfect fantasy skill set. 30 steal upside, 25 to 30 homer upside, really elite hit tool, good on base skills. Like the type of guy who could be just a perennial top 5 pick in fantasy. And you obviously would have to pay a ton to get him right now. Like nobody's sleeping on Corbin Carroll, but he's the type of guy that I'm just extremely confident in.
Yeah. So give up an old pitcher, an old bat, maybe a third piece, and get Corbin Carroll back. What's nice about that is you get those two roster spots and play with those two roster spots. Pick up pick up guys that don't have the shine. Maybe like a Glenn Otto, a young pitcher that could go on a tear that might look good in the pitching plus model. I don't know, who do you think of like a young major leaguer that's sort of on the outside of a job right now, but could break out.
Well, it's kind of, I mean, like, could you pick up like Edwin Rios? Is your league that shallow?
Right. Yeah.
Like, probably not. I mean, I think this is the time of year where
depends on the depth of your league, of course. Yeah.
All those guys have probably gotten scooped up already. Like,
it is
like
a rough time.
I love Clay Holmes, like long term. Like he's like maybe my favorite reliever in baseball right now, but I think he's probably already been picked up in dynasty leagues and stuff. So it's like Owen Miller, if you could have added him like first week of the season, like those types of guys.
Yeah, I wonder if there's some lurking on some bad teams here. Let's I mean, like Brandon Drury, could bust out into a regular playing time.
I'll give you like a super, like I don't even necessarily believe in this guy, but Jack Sawinski with the Pirates.
Right. Someone who's just someone who's getting run. Like
Yeah,
just, you can pick up the flavor of the month, and like if you picked up Sawinski and he turns into Schwindel, and I'm just saying that because of the letters in their name. I don't know anything about Sawinski yet. But and he turns into Schwindel, then maybe you have another piece to trade in the offseason. Just because
right.
he's busting into play now. And for those of us, those who are listening who are in more shallower dynasty leagues, I think like a Diego Castillo,
Yes.
or Michael Chavis.
Or here, like I like Richie Palacios with the Guardians a little bit. I think he
Uh-huh.
just got sent back down, but like those types of guys, like the guys that are
Right
either
there
hanging around
knocking on,
AAA. Yeah,
knocking on the doorstep a little bit. And maybe you get lucky. Maybe there's a trade in the Guardians, and he gets a spot somehow out of it, or he gets traded. So yeah, into that sort of generally, but then sort of specifically as you are, how do you make your how are you're doing an update right now? Like what's the process for you? It's looking through stats, texting people, like what's the
yeah. Like I've had a lot of people sort of reaching out, like asking for like who are going to be the biggest risers, like that type of thing.
and
I
that's what
honestly
I'm gonna ask you.
well, like it's very easy for me to say like who like which guys that are in my top like 150 now are going to be moving up. Like that part of it's easy, but I haven't even sat down and started kind of crafting the rankings yet. I'm still like I'm in this sort of period. I'm really just scouring for information on
Mm,
which guys are breaking out, like getting familiar with these guys, and then um, probably starting on like Monday of next week, I will actually be working on the actual rankings. So I'm still sort of in talk to people, watch video, look at stats mode on a lot of these guys, just getting myself familiar with them, and then I'll be kind of actually crafting the rankings this upcoming week.
so who are you hearing good things about?
Um, well, like I mentioned like Corbin Carroll, but like Jordan Walker with the Cardinals is a guy that's I think like top 30 for me now, but might be top 7 or 8 on the update. He just looks like a phenom. Got a super aggressive assignment to Double A as a 19-year-old, and he's handled it better than I would have ever imagined. Robert Hassel and Michael Harris are
And
other guys.
Walker's still playing. Is he playing short or third?
I think he's playing
Oh,
third.
he's playing third. Okay.
I mean, there's no chance he would end up at short if that is where he's playing right
No,
now.
yeah, no, it's third. It's third. So,
Yeah,
what's the do you ever think about? I mean, I guess you don't really care about that for your rankings, although they are sort of fantasy forward rankings, right?
yeah, but I do care about defense a lot
But do you also
because
care about like what's happening in the major league level? And
I mean
because
I
like
think people
is Gorman ahead of him?
not as a prospect. He'll get to the big leagues ahead of him, but he's not
Okay.
as good of a prospect.
Okay.
Like you like with a guy that's this sort of elite, the type of guy that only comes around for a team every 5 or 10 years. Like I just never care about what's
You just
blocking them.
assume they'll make room for them at some point.
Right. If it's a guy like I love Jonathan Aranda and Curtis Mead in the Rays organization, but betting on a Rays infielder to get regular playing time, it's just
Anytime soon.
like
Yeah.
I don't like that just really kind of
Like
stings for their value, right?
even Bruhan, right? Like just
Yeah,
he's up now, and you still don't know how much he's gonna play.
yeah. They always go like too deep at every position on the 40 man, and even when the guy's up, they're playing like 4 or 5 days a week tops until they really really break out, unless it's a Wander Franco type. So
Do you
the
ever
team
noticed? Yeah, what's that?
well, like the
The
team
team
context
context.
matters for like that type of thing, right? I mean, like Most teams, you don't have to worry about that.
Do you notice, like, do you ever like sort of notice new positions they're playing in the minor leagues and sort of see that as a sign that they might be called up soon? Like, for example, let's say next year Jordan Walker's at Double-A and all of a sudden he's playing left field.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
you'd be like, whoa, that's new. That's different.
And if like a good example of that is like if Carlos Correa had never gotten injured, I was I was just going to be constantly keeping tabs on what position Royce Lewis was playing at AAA because he'd only been playing shortstop and he can play everywhere. So it's
Right.
just a matter of like when were they going to decide to start playing him at third
It's
base
second or third, yeah.
left field? Yeah. So like that's something you're definitely always checking, especially once a guy's at AAA. And like Jordan Walker kind of looks like a prototypical right fielder in many ways, and he's got a monster arm. So like I could see that being a spot that he might end up. So yeah, that's definitely something to keep an eye on, especially once guys get to AAA.
Do you think that Royce Lewis will stay up?
I think if he plays to his potential, I think he will. But like I think that they're probably very open with him about the fact that we'll see how this goes. You're obviously not going to be playing shortstop once Perez healthy, but
right.
Like Royce Lewis is a better player than Jose Miranda, and he's a better player than Luis Arias.
Yeah.
So like if he hits and he's not just in a real funk at the plate when Correa gets activated, then I don't see why they would send him down in favor of players that aren't as good as him. But I don't think they would mind sending him down at all if he was struggling.
I was a little bit I had Miranda kind of in a different space in my head, I think. When I started looking at his minor league numbers again, yes, he has these like eye-popping batting averages, but it's mostly kind of a low strikeout rate, medium power approach, which do you have opinions about like how certain skill sets port over to the big leagues and like how does that rank for you? Like a kind of like a 12% strikeout rate, 180 ISO in the minor leagues kind of guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of what type of trajectory are they on? Like, have they only recently sort of started getting the power?
Which, to be fair to Miranda, the better power numbers are recent.
Yeah. My big question with Miranda is just like he's kind of in that Willie Calhoun range of like a defender where there's always going to be pressure on his bat. So like that's where defense does really matter, especially if you're comparing like Miranda and Royce Lewis, where like Lewis is going to be really good defender at the positions other than shortstop. Like we saw that in the Arizona Fall League a couple years ago, where he was just playing all over the place and looking really good. Miranda, I think there's a chance.
Like you don't want to be playing Miranda at third, is what I'm hearing.
No, like you want to play him at first base or DH. Like basically the Luis Arias problem. Like you don't want to be playing him anywhere either. I think like Miranda had sort of earned the opportunity ahead of Lewis because of what he did last year, where he just kind of destroyed upper level pitching and had sort of put himself in this position. But Lewis was way better than Miranda at AAA this year, and he was a way better defender.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting team for me because I find Gio Urshela actually to be a mild buy low. He's got the best swing strike rate of his career, one of the better reach rates, chase rates. His barrel rate is one of the better ones of his career. Like his strikeout rate is, like it's all looks good except for the batting average and the power. So I kind of think I would, if I were the Twins, I'd be running him out there a little bit longer, especially since the glove is decent. But when you do have high end upside in terms of Royce Lewis, and then Miranda, who might be a better bat than Urshela, then you have these options, and then they're kind of just right in front of you. It must be a really difficult time to make a decision there. Who are some other names that have popped out for you?
So like there's these three outfielders that we're all top 100 guys, and a couple of them were sort of top 30 guys coming into the year. But like Robert Hassel with the Padres, Michael Harris with the Braves, and Pete Crow Armstrong with the Cubs, they all kind of fit sort of the mold of prospect that I really gravitate towards, where people maybe question the power a little bit, but everything else is just off the charts, and they're getting to some power. And
Mm-hmm.
they're sort of those kind of five tooly sort of center field types,
Mm-hmm.
where you just the power might be the last thing to show up. Like I really like those guys, and they're all off to excellent starts. And I mean Harris, he's the only one in the upper levels out of the three. Pete Crow's at low A, Robert Hasseling's at
Mm-hmm.
high A, Harris is at double A, but Atlanta really loves him, and they've kind of gone out of their way to not block him long term. So I think he'll be up probably for most, if
Man.
not all, of next season.
Yeah, he could be up pretty soon, especially since they've been running out some interesting center field options.
Yeah,
I mean, they've been playing Adam Duvall in center.
yeah. They definitely have been going kind of the 1 year at a time veteran retread types there,
And they've been the buzz around Harris, he's Dave O'Brien's writing articles about him, and then
yeah.
he almost sounds he's like almost on that untouchable list
Oh yeah,
whenever
and
trades come up and stuff.
yeah, prospects that are as good as him in real life don't really get traded.
Yeah.
He's and I love him because you can just like look at the skill set, and it's just like, oh man, this guy is so good at everything. His worst thing is hitting for power, but even that, like he rates well in terms of hard hit rate and stuff like that. And he's got the 213 ISO as a 21-year-old at double A.
Right.
And he just has like he's got the exact sort of skill set that we all are chasing in fantasy.
Yeah. Would he kind of maybe go on that Corbin Carroll list, maybe like where you could make a big trade for him?
Yeah, like if he was the headliner for you and you were selling like a really good veteran big leaguer, like I think that's fine. And he is better in batting average leagues than OBP leagues, for
Yeah,
what
I
it's
was
worth.
looking. The patience is not maybe elite, but
He's kind of he's a little Tim Anderson-y,
mm,
to me.
good contact, good power. Not necessarily going to wait for the number one pitch. For what it's worth, I wrote this piece about swinging, and we might be in the middle of a little bit of a sea change in the big league level, where when you have a home run rate like you did in 2019, it makes sense to do what Alex Bregman said, which is I only swing at pitches I can homer on. But if the league is actually deadening the ball and that's going to stick around, then you actually want more Tim Anderson types, because you want to shorten up, you want swinging, you want singles, because you can't wait for that homer as much anymore. You need to kind of start stringing together some hits. So it's interesting to think sometimes about how these prospects interact with how the league is changing and what the league wants. Like if they ban the shift, won't everybody want lefties?
Yeah, and actually, that's interesting that you what you said about like guys trying to hit for singles, because I've actually noticed in some of my research this year that it seems like a lot of even like the best hitting prospects in the minors have really upped their opposite field rate. Uh, so maybe they're just a lot of teams are sort of teaching these guys like, don't be afraid to just take a single when it's there on the outer corner.
Mm.
So
Cover the
um,
plate, reduce the strikeout
yeah,
rate.
that's interesting.
But then how does that play with like if they ban the shift and they're like, no, don't just pull it everything. It's go back to full
Well,
play.
so if they ban the shift, aren't like how are they going to do it so that guys aren't just moving as soon as the guy delivers the pitch? Like wouldn't infielders just be like kind of breaking in certain directions?
Yeah,
Like,
I think you could. I think there's obviously gonna be ways to game because you have an analyst, you have an R&D department. As soon as they create new rules, the R&D department goes around and tries to figure out how to subvert them basically.
right.
So I guess what I would do if I had to have two guys on the left side of the infield, I would still have my second baseman in kind of as deep as he could be and close to first base as he could be, and my shortstop would be standing on the bag or wherever he's allowed to be, and then he would break into that space, right? He would
Hmm.
break into that space past the pitcher on the right side of the bag. So yeah, you can't, and then you can't legislate that. You can't be like, well, you can't go over there. Like what? Like I'm not allowed to be over there.
Yeah.
So that's fun. Also, interesting in this trio of outfielders that you've mentioned is Michael Harris. There's a kind of a distinct difference between Michael Harris and Pete Crow Armstrong in that they're the levels they're at. And we at Devil's Rejects in the past we've had you gotta help me remember some of them because I've always fought like whenever you come up with their name, I'm like, oh my god, these stats are amazing. Hedbert Perez was the one I remember in A ball, but there have been others. What are some of the other names that we
Oh
picked up
man, I
that didn't pan out?
I should dig up our trade history. But
Yeah,
yeah,
because
like
we've been trading them left and right.
basically, like I don't think we've ever regretted trading a guy in the lower levels of the minors in this league, and part of that is it's not like we're rostering these elite number one overall pick types and then trading them. But
We're picking up pop up guys,
yeah. I mean, this is a open
and that's the
universe
difference between
league,
Hedbert
so
Perez and Pico Armstrong, right?
kind of, yeah. I mean, Pico Armstrong was really a high pedigree draftee who basically missed all of last year with an injury, which is the only reason he's still at low A. But like
Mm-hmm.
he's going to be like he should already be at high A probably. That won't take very long. But like with Hedbert, it was like a lot of buzz from what he was doing in like the tricky league where they weren't keeping stats and like what he was doing in big league spring training and stuff like that. And uh, it was one of those things where a very talented player, very like gifted in certain ways as a hitter, but he's just been completely unable to make the normal adjustments that the best players make when they go to
And that's
A
just like
ball. So
that's the problem with I mean, yes, go like if you have those two roster spots after your trade, maybe one of them can go to a pop-up guy in a complex league or in the Dominican or somewhere that's just putting up some bonkers stats. It's fine to do that. But then I wouldn't hug that guy too hard, like if it comes down to a choice about keeping, and it's him or somebody with a little bit more pedigree. Like I think sometimes you trust the scouts and you trust the rankings and don't worry about that guy who has a 420 batting average in the Dominican League or something,
yeah, and like sort of like prospect. My process for evaluating prospects for Dynasty is kind of always evolving, and there definitely was a run there where I was overvaluing those teenagers, especially like the international guys who because we just kind of come off of that Juan Soto, Acuna, Tatis like
Where you want to be
wave,
out in front on a guy
right?
that didn't
Yeah,
have the pedigree necessarily or didn't have all the buzz and was just rocketing up the way.
right. And it's just like there are always going to be those guys, like Wander Franco happened just last year, right? So like there
Mm-hmm.
are always going to be those types of guys, but I think I started overrating the best international signees before they had really proven it. And so I think it's okay to be a little cautious with some of these guys, and it's also the gap, like because they got rid of all those short season leagues. You're just going to keep seeing a ton of these guys go from complex ball to low A and really struggle because it's just such a massive gap. Like the pitching in the complex leagues is just terrible. So anyone that has any sort of hand-eye coordination and power is going to be able to put up crazy numbers there. So we just got to kind of be careful to not look at those complex league numbers and assume that it's just going to keep carrying over.
Isn't the complex league a little bit different now than it was before they slimmed down the minor leagues? Isn't it a little bit more crowded? Do they have new rules about how many people can be down there? Because there was a whole deal where they just eliminated basically a minor league team per organization almost, and I'd heard from people, oh, they're just going to throw all those kids down in the complex league, and the D-backs apparently had like 60 people down in their complex or something.
Yeah,
Are they tightening those rules, or is it pretty crowded down there, or what's the complex league like right now?
well, there's some teams. It's kind of different, like team to team. Like some teams are just really, really invested in that level and just having a bunch of players there, and other teams like the Rockies never had a complex team. Like they had the DSL, and then they had
I can safely say, don't do what the Rockies do. I can't tell. Has it worked out for the D-backs? Have there been some shining jewels that have come out of the complex league recently where we've been like, oh yeah, it was great that we had 80 people down there?
Let me see. Like Davison De Los Santos was kind of a big deal. He was a 2019 J2 guy. Christian Robinson would have kind of been a big deal if he hadn't.
And Christian Robinson, maybe they were allowed. Maybe they could, like, there was a whole like personal angle on that's Robinson, right? Where he had stuff he's going on. So maybe it allowed them a kind of a place to bring him back into the fold. Complex leagues, like they feed you and stuff, right? So it's like, they're not just like, hey, you're living in Modesto now.
And I think a lot of these they just want to sort of have their guys all around, and they might not all be like active in terms of playing in the games, but
or
they're
on the roster, quote unquote.
Yeah, they're always sort of scrimmaging down there and stuff too. So like, I think it's just be at our facility. That's where they have all the sort of high end developmental tools and stuff, and they've got all the dietitians and stuff like that. So like they want as many of those guys there as they can handle.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think generally, pick up those high A pop-ups, low A pop-ups, complex league pop-ups, but don't fall in love too much. But it is still kind of difficult to kind of, I think of Jeremy Pena, like he's doing so well right now. What was Pena doing on your rankings as he came up? Like, how did he slip between the cracks, or was he always prominent? Like, is he, how old is he right now?
He's 24. A nice thing that
a little bit older than than other guys, so that would have taken some of the ceiling, quote unquote, off of him for some rankers.
So I have every prospect on their player page has like a graph where I can go and see where I had them ranked. And so Pena was around 300 back in 2019, got up to like 200 the off season between 2019 and 2020. Then he came off the rankings during the pandemic year. Like he's a really good example of a player who legitimately made themselves a better player when nobody was watching, basically. Like he remade his body. Like he just showed up in 2021, and then he was injured in 2021 too, but like he showed up
so much more power.
Yeah, he added a ton of good weight during the pandemic, and so he got so much better, and we didn't really know. I mean, the Astros obviously knew, but we didn't necessarily know how much better he got.
2021, yeah.
And then he even showed up like after he got healthy in 2021. he put up really good numbers, but like if you look at his like K to walk in AAA last year, like it wasn't that good.
And
But it
already
was,
at that point he's 23, you know.
yeah. So he was, let's see. So like at the end of last year, I had him 147, which was the highest point I'd ever had him. But I didn't bump him inside my top 100 until this past winter when you started seeing a lot of buzz about uh, this is going to be a guy that has a chance to break camp. And then I had him top 30 before opening day, but even that wasn't high enough.
Mm.
I think just getting when it's a proximity guy who um, is as productive as he is. I mean, like you really can't put a price on that, especially if you're rebuilding. But like on the
I mean,
flip
that's what a
side,
lot of teams, major league teams, are trading for, right? Like they want a guy who's kind of popped up a little bit, but not at high A. They want the guy who's popped up and is doing it at AAA or AA,
right?
and
Because you
seems
just
ready to
have
go.
so much more confidence in
The
the
reality of
skills.
those numbers,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I
But like on
think
the
that's what the A's do most of the time. The A's just like, oh, that guy who's just putting up good numbers this last year in AA, like we'll take him. Kevin Smith, yeah, sure.
yeah, they went. I mean, they went and traded for just a ton of low pedigree pitchers who had put up good numbers at AAA,
Yeah,
and then they
exactly.
just sort of hoped that like maybe two of the five would turn into like back end starters for him.
Yeah, yeah, they look really weird through the lens of the pitching plus and stuff plus. Like Loesch has really interesting stuff plus and no command. Aller has one major league pitch. It looks like the slider, and I'm not sure that he can even like command the rest. But he has this reputation as a strike thrower. So it's just such a really weird collection of arms that they put together, and yet if I look at the guys that have made it in their rotation and are quote unquote like good options now, I'm like, what? Like, but I don't think Paul Blackburn is good. Is Paul Blackburn good?
Uh, I hope he's good.
You
I,
did. You
I,
put some money on him in
I,
labor.
I think I bid like 28 on him, and I got him for 26 in labor, and the next closest bid was like 6 or something.
Yeah.
So
You
that
needed
was a
did
rookie
you need the
mistake.
pitching? Is that what you're saying? Or no, you have the pitching.
I have too much pitching. Like I have Winder and Clay Holmes on my bench, and I can't really plug them in. But I'm short a couple bats. So
I've got bats. But Blackbird, it's Cole Irvin good? Like they're weird. If you watch them too, you're like, I don't know. Like they have pitches, but are any of them
I
really
think
good?
Blackburn's got plus Moxie.
Moxie. Well, I do think that they have a lot of pitches. Irvin and Blackburn have a lot of pitches, and I think they have decent command of those pitches. And so, I mean, if pitching is like keeping people off balance, then at least they start with those things. I just sometimes wonder if they have like the pitch they need for that out, you know what I mean, or that swing, that strikeout, I don't necessarily see that, but it's really interesting to like put that up against Matt Brash, right? Because if you are like in love with the kind of the stuff plus and the pitching plus model, you're like, oh, Matt Brash, like he has a 190 slider. I've never seen that before. Like this is amazing, and you fall in love with him, and then he doesn't have Moxie. He has minus
Right.
Moxie.
Yeah.
He does. He has like. Then you're like, well, maybe he only has one breaking ball, and he really didn't command it. You know.
And
Um,
I even talked myself into him because of like we'd sort of seen like Dinelson Lamet and Tyler Glasnow and guys like that
yeah.
dominate big league hitters with the two monster pitches.
Yeah.
And then now it's and then that kind of the interesting test case I think is going to be Max Meyer to some degree because he's probably got a better changeup than Brash, and he's got better command than Brash, but he's still uh, really reliant on how good that slider is and how good his fastball is. So I think that'll be a really interesting test case to sort of see how he does over the span of like 12, 20 starts.
Yeah, well, that was a really good segue. I do have a piece coming out tomorrow about minor league numbers. I have minor league stuff numbers for the PCL where Max Meyer is. What was your line about the PCL though? How many top pitching projects does the PCL have?
Yeah. You were like, we're only gonna go, we're not gonna go past like the top 10 or so because I got to leave something on the bone. And it's like, well,
you don't know how much I'm leaving on the bone.
yeah.
But Max Meyer, the slider, 124 stuff plus, 110 location, like that looks perfect. He knows where to put it. It's a really good slider. What I like is the fastball has a 109 stuff plus, 91 location. So maybe there's some fastball command issues, but it's also a couple of starts of information. So I don't think I'm ready to run for the hills yet, but the changeup has good stuff. Plus, so I see the possibility there for a 3-pitch guy. The top 10 for and I put no minimums on it because there just frankly aren't a lot of guys who pitched a lot of innings. And so the number one PCL stuff plus is Blake Snell. That's cheating. And then actually there's some names on here that are just awful. Cesar Valdez is second. Yes, that's Cesar Valdez. I could see actually how he doesn't have great pitching plus. It's great stuff plus, okay location, not great pitching. Bad platoon splits because it's all that Fosh, right? Like he might even have like reverse platoon splits where, you know, he's got that changeup, but what can he do to get same-handed guys out? And somehow they're trying to turn him into a starter. So I think that's kind of hilarious. Then Brian Mitchell, who I don't know who that is. Hunter Brown, you had something to say about. We'll return to him real quickly. Tyler Thomas, Max Meyer, Kelvin Nunez, Ryan Pepio, and Mackenzie Gore and Matthew Liberatore end up the top 10. But Hunter Brown and Ryan Pepio, you thought had similar profiles, if not. I mean, nobody throws the Ryan Pepio screw slider changeup thing that he throws, but there's something similar between Hunter Brown and Ryan Pepio.
Yeah, they they have just really, they seem like classic 2 to 3 inning relievers, most likely to me. Like Pepio, just that first outing couldn't have been more kind of textbook. Like he'll give you like a pitching ninja gif, and then he'll walk half the guys he faces. And like Brown's kind of the same way. But you were saying that the command numbers you have on Brown are better than Pepio, so maybe he's he's still walking too many guys, obviously, but you know, maybe he can get by with sort of an elevated walk rate.
What organization is he in?
Houston.
Well, you know, the nice thing about Houston is they have some, I think that they were doing some of what the Rays were doing with the one target. With Glasnow, they had one target for Glasnow where he just, always hit that one target. And if it's a curveball, it just works off that target down. And so maybe there's some things that Houston can do to get the most out of Brown, but also Houston will be fine with a 2-inning pitcher too. And like they might just use him as that because that's going to get them to their championship. Right. So there's a kind of a double-edged sword sometimes with the smart organizations. I wonder if Pepio will make it. I think the name that really pops for me, and I think it's cool that Gore and Liberator have some similarities in that they both have above average location plus, top 10 stuff plus in the PCL, and lefties that have had like kind of an up and down run in prospect lists and just like what people think of them. And so I think this makes me more bullish on Matthew Liberatore because Gore has come into the major leagues. And I think he's shown a good fastball with good shape and good velo, a slider that looks like a major league slider that he can command, and then 2 pitches he can work on. Like obviously the changeup I think has good shape and used to be one of his out, like maybe his out pitch, but he isn't commanding it well at the major league level. So I would say find a way to command that changeup better, and you've got a 3-pitch pitcher and it's going to work out. So I am, because of these numbers, more bullish on Matthew Liberatore. Where do you stand on him?
Yeah, he's been trending up for me for about a year. The fastball, I think I wrote him off a little bit
Because it's a
because
sinker.
I mean it's just not ideal from a velocity or shape standpoint, but he's really improved the rest of his arsenal, and like his slider's gotten to be really good, and he's he knows how to pitch. Like he's definitely a starter. And I mean, you couldn't, like I've said this. I think I've said this a couple times, but like you couldn't ask for a better situation for a pitching prospect to be
Yeah,
in than
right. Yeah.
St. Louis. Like because you have everything there, right? Like you have easy access to that rotation. You have just a perfect division, great
Perfect
ballpark, good
park. Yeah.
defense. Yeah, like it's really nice. So if a pitching prospect with any potential comes up through the Cardinals org this year, I'm going to be excited.
Yeah, yeah, and I could see either Dakota Hudson. I mean, Dakota Hudson, I just don't get. I can't believe that for his career he's had 280 innings with a 3.18 ERA with the pitches he has. And the command he has. Like he has minus command, minus stuff. I mean, just look
It,
at his
it's
swing strike rates, his strikeout rates. Like I don't get it.
it's because he's got a 58% ground ball rate, and
Yeah.
he walks a guy and then he gets a double play.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It just seems unsustainable. Like the things that we know about Major League Pitching are that like K minus BB is like one of the most powerful things. And he has like a 3 K minus BB. The average is like 13. So it's like
Yeah.
I don't get it. So I feel like Dakota Hudson can implode or get injured. He's also been oft injured in his career. Steven Matz has been oft injured and is imploding. Wainwright is old and Michaelis is old. So I feel like he might be, and then Hicks has been injured. So I know Verhagen is on that roster, but I kind of feel like Liberatore might be, or he's not on the roster. He's rehabbing a hip. I bet you that's a phantom rehab. But anyway, I feel like he's knocking on the doorstep. So that's a fun one. Fastball shape is a tough one. I think it's really hard to see. When you're like, you kind of need to be behind home plate. And even when you are, I think like I was even talking to some scouts about this recently, like that ride and jump, like the difference between a pitch that's just straight and doesn't have ride and a pitch that is straight and has ride, I think is just really hard to see with your eyeballs.
So you think you see? I think I can see it better from the
From behind.
TV angle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
like I actually prefer when I'm like video scouting a pitcher. I prefer the TV angle than the.
I had a hitter told me that he preferred to prepare for pitchers from behind from the TV angle.
Yeah, I just think you can see
Shape better.
what the stuff does, like, and sort of how it plays off each other. Like the pitches play off each other better. But you get I think you get a better sense of command from that angle too. But I because you
Because you
can
can
sort
see
of
the
see where the
target.
catcher, yeah, like that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I don't know.
But do you think that the fastball shape is one of the more difficult things to scout?
Totally. I mean, well, like if you get reliable data on the like spin and stuff,
It makes
then
it easier.
right. I know there's sort of debates about how reliable that stuff that people get their hands on is, but I don't know. I mean, I think you can. The hitters will kind of tell you, like almost like just sort of how tough it is to square up the fastball. But I mean,
Yeah, you could maybe see like pop-ups. Like if it is a high ride fastball, you start to see pop-ups, or you sort of like see like hitters kind of like, not swing it, or kind of do some body language maybe.
mhm.
I did see I did see a track man for Grayson Rodriguez. And the best comp for the fastball is Kevin Gaussman. And then he has a changeup that almost nobody is throwing. It has like 14 inches vertical separation off of the fastball and 14 miles per hour difference, which like that makes me a little bit nervous because a lot of the guys who have the plus changeups like that are like Honeywell, Faria, Cotton, like that are both plus velocity differential and movement differential. But the curveball had 30 inches drop off of the fastball, and it was hard, and like, so I don't know. I think that even if his changeup isn't as amazing, he looked like he had legit 4 pitches and was sitting like 96, 97. So
Who just off of like your info, who do you like more out of Grayson and Max Meyer?
I have seen the underlying numbers for both of them. I'm gonna go with Grayson because he's throwing 4 pitches and he's throwing them regularly, and that's kind of what I like. When I was saying about Gore is like there's only 2 pitches that really rate above average in the model and that are like solid major league pitches. But I'm happy he throws the curve and the change even if they aren't great. Because think about that conversation we were just having about Cole Irvin versus Matt Brash, right? Like Matt Brash doesn't even try to throw the other stuff. Like he's already narrowed it down. He already knows these are the 2 pitches, and that's what I've got. So I'd rather have a guy who made it all the way to the major leagues with 4 pitches, even if maybe later he focuses on 3, because it tells me that he's got a wider arsenal. He's got more chances at it too. Let's say the changeup is weird. Well, he's still got the curveball and slider. You know what I mean? It's not all going to depend on one pitch. Whereas I think with Meyer, if he doesn't throw the changeup, then it'll be fastball slider, and then we've seen some weakness on fastball slider guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fun juxtapose because I think it's possible you see Meyer and Rodriguez debut like the same week.
Fabapalooza.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm hoping for. Like I'm hoping, and honestly, you might see Liberatore up. Like they could all 3 come up kind of around the same time.
And the sneaky play here, like reading between the lines on our analysis here, the sneaky play might be to not do the like $250 bid on Grayson Rodriguez. Keep it in the pants. Even if you think Grayson Rodriguez is the best, do like $120 bid on him, and then 115 on Max Meyer, and 111 on Matthew Liberatore. Maybe you end up with Matthew Liberatore for 111, but they're closer than people might think. I mean, that's what the underlying stats are saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Liberatore does have the worst fastball. I do have it done by pitch, and it's an 86 stuff plus fastball. So like, he does have the worst fastball of the group.
Yeah, you kind of, it's tough because you run the risk, like with Liberatore, it's possible that he's just a guy that you only feel comfortable starting against the Pirates and the Cubs, and then like with Meyer and Rodriguez, and then like George Kirby, like I think you should feel pretty good about like I can just kind of leave this guy in my lineup, and just hope that they stay healthy.
Yeah, that's a big difference. I mean, I definitely have Liberatore third, but I think there might be a sneaky play there, or the sneaky play is Max Meyer, bidding a little bit less on Meyer than Rodriguez and winning Meyer, because there's a lot to like about all 3 of them. But
I think anyway, Meyer's slider, I just wanted to get your take on really quick because I just does it remind you of any other sliders? Because like to me it's kind of just this like unicorn slider almost in terms of its shape and its velocity. Like it's just the vertical drop on it is just crazy.
Yeah, it's it is a crazy slider. I'm looking here. I thought I had um huh. I thought I had a comp in here in my yeah. Anyway, yeah, I don't have for it because it has good. It's like all sorts of movement, right? Like you know. I think and it's funny too because the scouting has just been like, this guy's great on the slider. Like this guy's slider's great, you know.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like it's like the perfect slider. Like if I were to just give someone a slider.
Yeah, I
So
wonder if the model has something to say about what's funny is that on the in the model, um, so pitching plus does not stuff plus does not look uh, at platoon splits.
okay.
Um, and then pitching plus does. I don't know if that was the right decision, and we may revisit it. But the idea is like just look at which shapes work, and then pitching plus can say, is that a shape that has a platoon risk, right?
And I wouldn't think that his does.
And it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of the pitching, the stuff plus on it is 124, and the pitching plus is 123. So it looks like it doesn't have the platoon splits. So, like for example, just to compare, Matthew Liberatore's slider has a 126 stuff plus and a 107 pitching plus. So that has more of a platoon split. That's more of a traditional slider. So there's something to tease out there, but so it may not be that risky, also, right? If he's just fastball slider and it doesn't have platoon splits.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've heard. I had Nate Handy on my podcast yesterday, and he was saying that like the slider just destroys lefties. So he like I think the changeup is still nice to have as just to keep guys off balance and stuff. But and he will throw like it's not he's not going to throw his changeup. But
What's your
yeah.
organizational read there too? Because he's not on the 40 man yet, and Edward Cabrera is. Edward Cabrera is behind him in terms of bulk and just being pitching on the season. You know, but and they don't really necessarily have a quote unquote need. I don't know. My read was like maybe if it's a injury, like a short term injury, it's Cabrera. But if they're making a real change in the rotation, like for example, Eliezer Hernandez is out of the rotation, then I think if it's a real change in that might be Meyer.
Yeah, you know, I was talking to Craig Mish about this a few weeks ago, and
He's pretty plugged in there.
yeah, he thinks that Edward Cabrera might be a guy that they shop, and so maybe I don't know whether it would help or hurt his trade value if you bring him up and he like I don't know, maybe you just want to keep him like putting up really good numbers at AAA or something. Like I don't think anyone would fault them for just going with Meyer. I mean, he's like what could he possibly be learning at right now at AAA? Like AAA hitters just have no chance against that stuff. So I would be tempted to just get him up while he's healthy. And then Cabrera, you know, I don't think there'd be anything wrong with letting him build up as well, just because he's missed time with injuries and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, 2 starts, injuries, plus the command isn't looking good yet. So, I mean, if it's about winning games, it's Meyer.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's got to be about winning games for that team. Given what they did in the offseason.
Right, and they're 14 and 17 with expanded playoffs. Like they can convince themselves like they've got a shot at it. So
you can't waste this Jazz season.
That's right. You know that I think that hopefully that helps some people the way they think about their dynasty teams, the way they think about prospects, the way that they go and get a RotoWire subscription and read your rankings when they come out. But I think we're going to wrap this up here. Well, I did want to do one Would You Rather real quick. This is just a random one bonus for anybody who stuck around. Would you rather James Tyon or Alex Cobb?
For me, it's Cobb pretty easily, but it would have been close if it was Angels Cobb versus Tyone, but Giants Cobb, like
95, 96.
I'm obsessed with like Cobb's. It's just so pretty watching his fastball and his splitter. Like it's just so.
And the curveball is good too.
Yeah, I'm really in, like if Cobb can just stay healthy from here, I really think he's gonna just be a monster the rest of the way. Taking nothing away from Tyon, I just think the strikeouts are gonna be separated there.
Yeah, I just talked to Cobb, and it's funny. He said that everybody tells him he needs to throw his curveball more. My model says his curveball is good. He goes out and he shoves yesterday, and he throws 10 curveballs. So I feel like there's even like a, oh, you're seeing me a second time. Hey, how about 25 curveballs today? So I think the curveball is good enough for him to kind of get through the lineups teams again. Who are kind of prepping for the splitter. But also, who's going to win labor?
You have a 27 standings points lead.
We'll see. There's also 5 months to go.
I was asking you before we started recording, what your true talent level is, because I'm looking at my offense. I don't think I can get to I don't even think I can get to triple digits. You're at 110. I'm at 83. So I need you to kind of give half of that back. I don't think I can make up more than half of the rest of the season.
Yeah, I was saying I don't really have an overperformer. I mean, if you think Brandon Marsh can't hit 264, I guess he might come down. Josh Naylor's not going to hit 347. But I also have a surplus with Kyle Lewis coming back. So hopefully I make the right moves. I would
maybe I can bank on like a Josh Naylor steroid suspension or something.
Don't start that. But the embarrassing thing is that I think this is like my 10th or 11th year in labor, and the reason that's embarrassing is just by the friggin' numbers, I should have won one by now. There are 12 people in labor. I have a 1 in 12 chance every year. Yes, they're all really good. And I hope this is my year. And you can have next year.
Yeah, I mean, you're super due.
Yeah, super due. Yeah, cold at the plate. But thanks so much for coming on. It was a pleasure. Hope to see you. I'll see you at the Arizona Fall League, worst case scenario. But let me know if you come through around here and enjoy this Bucks ride through the playoffs. And for those of you listening, you can subscribe, like and subscribe. Please barrel up on that like button. That's something that Derek says. Barrel up on that like button on YouTube, please. Subscribe, like, and review wherever you can do such things. There's a $1 deal if you follow theathletic.com/rates and barrels. James Anderson, what is I don't have your Twitter handle in front of me.
Real JR Anderson.
That's right. He's James Anderson's Real JR Anderson on Twitter. I am Eno Saris. And that will wrap things up for us. Back with you next week, thankfully, with Derek Van Riper in the fold. Thanks for coming on, James.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, man. This was great.
Thanks for listening.